doing out there? And welcome to the Male Journal. I'm Uncle Rob, and this is my partner, Will.
Yes, sir.
Last episode, my partner brought up a question at the end of the episode. So if you're out on a date, your first date with a female, and she fart, pass gas, show a little flatulence, however you want to refer to it, but I'm going to turn it over to Will.
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing, man? Once again, man, welcome to the Male Journal community, where real men, hard conversations. However, this is a hard conversation.
Yeah.
And you know what? I ain't gonna, I know y'all fellas that laughed about it and probably thought about it and just kind of throwed it around with some other fellas. But I want to hear what Uncle Rob got to say about this. How would you have handled that on the first date, you and the wife, y'all hanging out, you listening to some Barry White or some Luther or whatever, and then she, you ready to ask her a question, and as you get ready to pose a question, you turn on the radio and then, bah!
Well, I guess it depends on how early or how late it is in the date. Because like as soon as I walk up and she cracked one out, I'm like, I'm gonna have to think twice about that a little bit more. But now we've been talking for a while and got comfortable with each other, and then she let one slip, and it depends on if she tried to hide it, if she tried to ease it out, or if she just let it out and then look at me like, hey, that's me. Yeah. I get shut down a lot more. Yeah. I mean, either way, I don't think it'll turn me. I mean, it too depends on if it's a wet one, if it's a dry one. You got a lot of factors that go into that.
Yeah.
That's actually a very complex question. That,
Yeah.
It sounds simple.
It sounds simple.
But it really is. That, like if it's at the end of the night and we've been, gotten tight, we've gotten close, we really feeling each other like good friends, probably wouldn't bother me. But like if it's at the very beginning and how that plays in with the rest of her personality, like if she farts right at the beginning and then she's eating with her mouth open and smacking and all that, that says a whole lot more about her personality than just a little passing gas.
Yeah.
So don't throw it on me. What about you?
Well, let me be honest, right? Because I know we got some real substance today, and I know Rob will break y'all off, and we got a real meal and a feast prepared for y'all. But however, let me kind of give you a little history of how this question even come about.
Okay.
So me and my daughter, we was together, we was hanging out, she worked with me, and that's my partner. So we, we was riding, and then we started having conversations about men, and the conversation came up about, a woman passing gas in front of a man, because there was a conversation, I believe it derived from the radio, and it was something like women, they were holding gas. They were, not, pass gas in front of a man. And I think the discussion was based on one guy, he moved in with a chick and he had never seen her use the restroom. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes these unrealistic expectations, we put on each other as humans should, they should not be, because those are human factors.
Right.
And on the first date, I asked my daughter would she pass gas, and she was like, "No, I wouldn't do that." And I asked her why, and she was like, "That would be like disrespectful." But if you're a human being and you got to pass gas, it would be more respectful to wind down the window and then just say "excuse me" or so forth, and then kind of change the conversation towards her passing gas, which opens up a sense of transparency. And I don't think a lot of men have ever been encountered with that type of situation with a woman that has that level of self-confidence.
Right.
So I think that would have been something that would have been very challenging to even me, because I wouldn't have known how to take her, because that breaks the cultural norm. So, I just thought about it and I said, well, man, let me bring this to the fellas and let's see, how the men would feel about this, and what would be the overall, conversation, and how, people would respond. And so we still waiting on some responses too, guys. We're not getting y'all off the hook. So we're looking for these comments, man. Come on, feed them to us, give them to us. But with that being said, enough said, we're going to transition to get down to business. And turn it over to Rob. Rob gonna break us off, man. And as y'all know, his background is in this conversation that he finna lead. So, man, be attentive and really listen, because we need to understand this to understand how we got to where we are, so we can understand where we're going.
Right. And just something real quick to the whole farting thing.
Okay.
I promise, my wife didn't pass gas in front of me or go to the bathroom for like 8-9 months, man.
Wow.
And I said, this girl, you're gonna die, because when she's sneaking off to the mall and going to the bathroom or something. But I can tell you, after 23 years of marriage, that is not the case right now. I love you, sweetheart, but we are very, very comfortable with each other. I would say that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the topic of the day was the importance of a man being in the home, the importance of the impact of a man being in the home, and part of what has happened in society, in our society, in our culture, for a long time, and not so much today, because statistically, men of color are in their home as much, if not more, than men of other races. But for a long time, that wasn't the case. There were a lot of factors that went into that, dating back to the days of slavery, where the first move the slave masters did was to take that male out of the home, because that was the way they knew that was the way to weaken the family. So I think it's vitally important that we as men are in our home, and not just in our home, but in the right position in our home. As far as not being a dictator, not being some type of tyrant, but to be the leader of that home, whether it be spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, which is the emotional part of it is where a lot of us detached over the years. I think we're headed in the right direction, getting back to that. But there were certain social situations that took us out of the home, like partially the introduction of social services, whether it be food stamps or social aid. And part of the rules were that man, your children's father, couldn't live in the home. And for so many years, that decimated a lot of families. And it became such a norm to where a lot of men just said, you know what, hey, I can't provide it. They'll make more money on aid than they would if I were in the home with a low-paying job. So it became kind of accepted. It became like a part of our culture to a degree. Not totally, but to a degree. And it forced our women into positions where they shouldn't have been. It forced our women to become warriors. It forced them to pick up the mantle of trying to be a man or feel that role as much as they could, as a female. So we're fighting a battle kind of from behind the lines, so to speak. We're behind the 8 ball, we're playing catch up. And so I think now more than ever, especially with the introduction, we're in an information society where we don't have a lot of that human interaction. So our children are getting influences from not just the guy next door or the people down the street or the neighbors across the street. They're getting influences from all over the world instantaneously. So if someone does something in, the far reaches of China, our kids know about it, within a few minutes.
Yeah.
So we're not just battling with, local influences. We're anybody everywhere now has an opportunity for our children to see their behaviors and emulate them. So our importance in the home now is paramount, because my mom used to always say, if you don't teach them, the world will. Mm-hmm. And that was long before the introduction of social media or even any type, the internet didn't even exist back then. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that, Will? What's your input on that?
Wow. Yeah, man, that is some heavy stuff, man. And just touching back on history, you can see the parallel. You can see the patterns. And you said something very important in reference to removing the male out of the home. And I know that has had an effect on us throughout history, because if you think about it, You know, going back a little farther, men were classified as studs. They were actually, you know, produce children, and then these children would be put on the market and they would be sold, right? And so the man would then be shipped off to another plantation, and the woman to another, and then the kids. Or sometimes they would keep the kids and the women together, and then separate them from the father and ship him to another plantation. Right. And then he would produce women there, kids there, and so forth, which has kind of evolved into our modern day society, wherein men are, you know, having kids over here, having kids over there, and it's not that they don't love their kids, but they're dealing with generational ties and issues that are unbeknownst to them, but these things are somewhat, they have a spiritual component. Mm-hmm. So as we fast forward to a more modern day model of that, we can see once the women were given housing and the men, they were told that the male couldn't stay there, that separated the man from his family, right? And even though there was a compromise and some men would stay there, but the girl was at risk of losing her voucher, she had to make a decision whether I want to lose this voucher and be put out, and now me and my kids don't have anywhere to stay because the male wasn't stable, neither at that time, a lot of the men, and they didn't have good jobs, and it was, you know, economically structured that way. So now that evolved into the judiciary system. So now if we can't stop you from staying there, we're going to create another plantation for you to dwell in while we take care of your family, and you need to be okay with that. And in that, she would be able to still come and visit you, and the little bit of assistance that we do give her, she would be able to accommodate you with the phone a little bit, and she would be able to see you some pictures here and there or whatever. So the man would settle for that. He would settle for that because his needs was being met. He had shelter, he had clothing, he had, you know, food, he had, you know, the opportunity to better himself in some aspects in accordance to the way the prison system used to be structured. So that became a trending component of our culture, wherein men would be like, man, I'm just gonna go lay down. And that was his way of saying, I don't have anything, I don't have anywhere to go, I don't have any place. My family is already pretty much taken care of by this other man being the government. So she's not willing to compromise. And so him dealing with all of these issues internally and not being able to find some stability in his life to take his family out of that situation so he can be a part of that whole and be able to be in a place to eliminate what you say our kids are being exposed to globally today. I believe that became the issue that had a twofold method to it that we're now seeing, where you're saying now there's more men of color in their homes than other cultures, wherein that twofold method is the first fold, it pushed men to say, I'm going to do better. Right. You're not finna dictate my house. You're not finna take control over my family and my kids and then push me out. You know, so I'm not going to compromise and just settle for this because I can't get a job. I can get a job now. I have a skill set. So men start moving into the economy more equipped, more marketable, with better tools, and were better able to provide for their families. Where on the other end, those women who had settled and said, okay, this is the way of life. Girl, you done had these kids, you 15, you better go down there and get them food stamps. Right. Girl, you better go down there and get that housing voucher. So now we're dealing with a generation of grandmothers that passing it down to mothers. Now mothers becoming grandmothers, teaching their daughters that this is the way. And so now they're having kids from men who are able to even get them out of that situation because they've accepted this as a norm.
Right, right.
So now that produces a struggle for the man.
Right. It's similar to the idea of the theory of if you keep telling a child he's bad, eventually he's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
He's gonna start doing bad things because he internalizes that and then defines himself by what you're telling him, or what you're showing. Because if you tell him that and you treat him that way, he has nothing else. He has no other input unless he goes outside of you or outside of the home. He has no one that's telling him otherwise. So therefore, therefore I am.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And I agree 100% that and some of us, a lot of us as men, not just about culture, have we're so unsure of ourselves, our own insecurities and our self-image can become warped because we have all these outside influences that we don't have anybody we don't seek out counseling, we don't seek out instruction from. Like when I grew up, we had old players, we had the old school guys, all the younger guys kind of came up under them, and they taught us. Some of what they taught us was not good. Some of it was the reason was wrong with us now, but a lot of it was good familial values that we will get bits and pieces of from these different guys and say, okay, then I'm going to be this type of guy. I like this about him and that about him, so therefore I'm going to emulate those traits. But honestly, the last few generations, that I don't see that. I see young guys leading young guys. Like our sons or my sons are trying to be like young guys as opposed to guys that have been out there with families and responsibilities and things like that. So they don't have the same, I don't feel like they have the same type of guidance that we did, same type of influences that we did.
Yeah, I agree.
And I like we're lost, and we need to seek out each other that have roadmaps back to some type of normalcy so that we can grow and expand and become better again as a people. I say that all the time. Even if I got one piece of the map and you got the next leg of the map and this guy's got the next leg of the map, but can kind of keep us on a more straight and narrow path, with the help of God and being caught up on your biblical reading. When I read the Bible, I see so many of the same stories that we're dealing with today. So it's not a new issue.
No.
And that's why I say it's not a black issue, not a white issue, it's just a people issue.
Yes.
Again, that's part of what the show is about.
Yes.
For us to try to have those open discussions.
Yes.
And try to move past some of these issues and grow and heal. That's what I was looking for, heal.
Yes.
So what do you think about that?
I think that is that's deep, man. It's a lot of insight in that. And one of the things that I identify with that you just said is that's very important is that we are all people. It's not a black or white issue. It's a human issue.
Right.
It's an issue that that's impacting and affecting men who are the chief cornerstones of society.
Right.
And absent us having the opportunity to elevate and to lead, guide, and protect our families based on our poor decisions. I read something the other day. It says, when we're born, we look like our parents, but when we die, we look like our decisions.
Mm.
And that led me to think about something when I was standing in the mirror, and I asked myself, do I look like a reflection of the influences in my life or in society, social media, whomever, do I look like them or do I have individuality? Do I look like, someone that I'm becoming, that I'm comfortable with, that I'm proud of? That I don't need the validation of others in order to have self-approval.
Right.
Because that will determine what type of father I am. That will determine whether I feel confident and competent enough to lead God and protect my family.
Right.
And one of the sadder parts that I look at in this equation is that in one era there was a group of men that were manipulated. Prison was an escape route, but today, and children were still able to have some type of connection with their fathers. Mm-hmm. The women were able, as mothers, to still have some type of relations with their children or child's dad. But today, young men are dying in droves. So now we have a whole generation that's coming up that will never know their father.
Right.
And the mother will forever be struggling with trying to connect with a man that she was disconnected from, to impart certain principles and things that she felt he would have wanted to give his child.
Right.
But because the relationship that they shared was not strong, or they didn't have good communication, because he didn't feel comfortable enough to be transparent with her, or confident enough to communicate to her what he was feeling, or he didn't know how to process it, or he didn't have that community like the male journal to connect the dots, to say it's okay, bro, to speak to your wife.
Right.
It's okay, bro, to tell her that you ain't feeling good about a particular situation. It's okay to say we need to get to the table because I can't figure these bills out.
Right.
Because it's overwhelming me. I can't sleep at night.
Right.
It's okay to say, I feel these things, because if you don't, then out of desperation, you may tell the wrong person, which may say, hey man, I got a lick, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or bro,
Right.
man, hit this joint, man. Don't even worry about that.
Right.
Or snort this line. So that's gonna take you somewhere else. But I think that's the core of the male journal.
I agree.
Is to create preventive measures that men don't have to resort to that.
Right. We've all had situations in our lives that considered traumatic, or that brought us down or weighed heavy on us. And I know for myself, I always thought, you're a man, you got to fix it yourself. You got to come up with your own solutions.
Yeah.
I implore you, reach out, talk to somebody, because I know when I do that, I always feel better.
Yeah.
Even if it's only for that moment, even if it's only for the length of that conversation.
Yeah.
But now I'm not down in the dumps anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a fix all. That's not, that's not something that's going that feeling is gonna last forever. If you get down again, have that conversation again. Reach out again.
Yeah.
Talk to that person again. Because 9 times out of 10, whoever you're talking to, they'll be able to give you feedback. Because most likely they've dealt with either something similar, or they're dealing with their own issues, their own demons, and they need somebody to talk to. So you helping them gives you an opportunity, gives you a break, gives you an escape from your situation.
That's right.
So again, that's what we try to provide here at the Male Journal. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Will?
Well, I want to say this. Rob and I, we're working on an online community, man, so we can kind of start touching bases from a different perspective as a group. We don't care if you're in California. We're trying to be able to meet globally via, Zoom or whatever platform we decide we're going to use, and to also be able to do some one-on-one counseling and coaching. I mean, I know that some men may not feel comfortable sharing certain things, and Some of y'all may feel comfortable sharing things with Rob because they're similar experiences. Some may be comfortable sharing things with me. But what we want to make readily available to all men, no matter what your race is, no matter what your age is, no matter where you've been in life, and no matter where you may be in life, that we are here to support you because we believe in you. We know that you're a good father. We know that you're an asset to the community. We know that you are possibly one of the top level CEOs in the country. We believe that you possess what you can see that nobody else can, and that you can bring it to fruition if you believe in yourself. And at the same time, remember, the key to your success is service. And I think that's why we're serving. Is because through serving, we're discovering more about ourselves. Right. We're learning how to elevate to the next level and face issues and talk about things that men hold in the closets of their heart and don't want to share with anyone else. So we here, Male's Journal. Remember, subscribe, share, and like. And stay tuned. Visit us on Instagram, The Male's Journal. This is about us, men. So let's learn together and grow together.
So in closing, we always like to leave you with a little something. We want to plant a question in your mind.
Yeah.
So do you have any ideas for the question of the day?
The question of the day. Let's keep it towards the women, fellas.
Oh, yeah.
Let me throw it at Rob. Because Rob, I know you got something brewing over there. What you got? Something that we're going to throw at the fellas in reference to the women. We done got the farting issue out of the way.
So, fellas, how do you feel? Quick question. When you go out to a restaurant, both of you get a menu, you order your meal, she orders her meal, but she spends all her time eating off of your plate. How do you feel about that?
Oh, man.
Because I know me personally, we'll talk about it, but just send us just your responses. Let us know how you feel about it. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions that you want to be the question of the day, pop it into the chat and we'll consider it.
That's right. All right. It's us and you and us, bro.
So until the next time, welcome to the Men's Journal. Peace.
Peace.